All right. I think we are live. Microphone. So yeah, figured doing, is that blurry to you guys? So yeah, basically wanted to do a live on my build breakdown because I feel like I've kind of done a little nitpicking tuning stuff to make a lot more Traxxas or stock stuff work. So I figured it was worth doing a live so we can kind of deep dive into my build, why I did it, why I have it set up like this, and any questions that you guys have that I might not typically run over. So, truck is here. And yeah, let this go for a minute or two before we start diving into it. Try to get black background out. So, yeah, I guess while we wait for the first minute or two, is there any questions that you guys have right off the bat? Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a nerdy little live. And then also, I talked my son into letting me bring his truck so I can go over his winch that I made him, recovery winch, and then also took the Land Rover roof rack off and glued it onto my son's Cherokee body, and it fits like perfect. And then I also brought this because I've been doing a lot more trailing this winter with this than I expected, and actually love this body now. So wait for the 3-minute mark, and then we'll start. So, and then running the Muse remote, but I'll go over that too. And grab a spare set of wheels and tires. Move these not so much in the frame. So yeah, I feel like these chairs need to be lower. But yeah, okay. So it's already been over 3 minutes. So let's get started. So I run the Traxxas TRX4m, and this started life off as the Chevy High Trail, and a couple different bodies. Ran the Chevy for a little bit, tried to make it a Beetle, and then try to make it the IR60. And even though I run the stock axle width, I was not really enjoying the look of the truck overall. So decided to do the IR40 body, which I absolutely love. And I've had this for about a year now. I have a whole nother setup, extra parts for the hinge in the back. And yeah, I love this because I had to do 0 trimming for it. And this will sit slammed and just still perform overall really well. So I'm stoked for that. And then what else? So yeah, in the year of having this, I've only broken 1 hinge for the back, and luckily reaching out to, I'm trying to do this on my laptop. So reaching out to Endura, they were very kind to let me order just that part by asking them. And also, I've ordered it twice from them. And one thing that I learned the first time is you have to tell them how many pieces you wanted to order before you can just order a bulk amount. So I ordered 5 the second time, ordered 2 the first time, but didn't tell them that I wanted 2. So they just expected me to get 1, and they only sent 1. But yeah, now I have 5 of those, and I have a whole nother separate body. And then I guess I'm just going to run down like the sprung weight to unsprung weight. So I personally run the stock chassis, the 202 millimeter Traxxas, I don't know, steel chassis. I run the Bronco low trail per se front shock mounts, keep it a little bit lighter, and then I run the Enduro rears because one, I ran those with my Chevy body to not have to cut the back, but also that helps with getting the shocks vertical with still running a high trail wheelbase. Also, let me know how this lighting is. I didn't want to make it too bright in here. Do I need to turn up the lighting? So, I feel like I do. But, I don't know. Let me know in the chat if you want me to make it brighter in here to hopefully show the detail. I feel like I'm already going to do, so I'll be right back. Okay. Let me know if that made any difference. Yeah, typically I like myself all black and I wear a lot of dark colors. But yeah, going to what I have recently changed is the Komodo, the Micro Komodo motor from Little Guy Racing. And going with the black theme is I ordered it because it's all black. And then I run the PureTech Python Pro because I wanted just the best over tunable performance that I could. So that's why I went with that. You have a crazy amount of tuning with it. You can run up to 4S with it. You can run, is it 8.4 volts to your servo if you want. And yeah, basically electronics, I don't like maxing them out. So I can still run some high tuning and not have to worry about this thing overheating theoretically, as well as the motor. Didn't realize it when I ordered it, but apparently outrunners are more prone to overheat, so we'll see how that goes with the heat of the summer. But trying to be on the move in our schoolie, so yeah. And then running the Muse remote, I took the 6-channel receiver and just put some heat shrink on it, and then that got the weight, well, the weight down, but also just made it so I can run it horizontal or like flat, and that way this thin body still closes right up. And then just took some Thule roof rack parts for our vehicle and cut them up, and that were already broken, cut them up and made 2 little sliders for mounts for them. So just trying to use everything instead of throwing stuff away. And then I have the receiver Velcroed on, so that way I can pop it off and get down to the front drive shaft if I need to take it off for any reason, and then just double-sided tape the ESC on. Try to get that a little bit lower. And then wiring wise, I tried to like put some fancy like heat wrap or something on there, and I just thought that it looked more bulky and ugly than just wrapping them around each other. So I think it made it pretty clean. Let me know what you think. And then I run the stock Traxxas, whoops, in the body on the keyboard. So I run the stock Traxxas trans mount, the case, and run, ramp crab low weight gear 40:1 ratio in there. They are heat treated steel, and I just wanted to try to get the weight down as much as possible. And also my truck has a little clicking, which I think it's gone now. I think it's in the transmission, but new motor, new trans gears, and that seems to be gone. What's going on, man? Yeah, doing well so far. It's been a week. Luckily, we had some good weather. Got to enjoy the family a lot. So hope all is well with you too. So yeah, running those gears, they're a little bit noisier than the Endura ones, but I didn't have any issues with the Endura other than potentially the clicking being those, but they're still my spare, so I put them back in. And then I run the plastic skid plate that came original in my truck as well, just to have a nice smooth belly to slide on, with the fact of it being a flat belly. So last thing in here, I guess one of the last things, is currently just using the stock battery tray. I don't know, see no reason to change it. It is low, and I've cut this to fit the ESC as low as possible with it clearing the frame up here. And then that also makes it so I can put my battery in this way and then loop this over to plug it in and just keep the wiring set up nice as possible inside the body. So hooking it up, like I said, my wires are all twisted up, but basically from the motor, the wire's right here and runs through the middle of the wind over to the front right here, or how I have my ESC mounted, it's the front. And then you have the wire from the ESC that swirls around the motor wire over to the receiver. And then my battery wire I have coming here, it loops around the battery tray to keep it hooked down through there, and then it just comes out right there. And then the strap which I use, which is a Garmin bike computer strap, but it's cutting out this notch right here. It helps the battery. Having the battery adapter helps it. This battery, the Traxxas 750, fit nice and snug in there, and I can loop it around and plug it in. Let's see. Are you still running the plastic gears in the transmission? Dang, you did a number on yours. So the stock Traxxas blue, which is blue ESC, which is actually called a ECM, is a 2-in-1 system, which is kind of confusing, but you do have to get a separate ESC and receiver depending on what setup you exactly want. So they sell this specific ESC with a FlySky 2-in-1 receiver in it, I didn't want to do that because I had troubles with my GT5, so I didn't want to be stuck with that. And this kind of shows I've had a Dumbo and a Muse remote since then, so I'm happy that I just kept everything separate. And then they make, PureTech makes 2-in-1 motors where all you need is a separate receiver. But if you change from the stock Traxxas ECM, you will need a receiver, which comes with your remote. So I am running this little Muse remote, and I am stoked on it. My son had one, which I had to literally beg him to let me bring today because I want to show you guys his winch that I made him. But he's had this remote for such a long time, has thrashed it, and I got mine because I was saying how durable this is. And there's a little, if you take, this is super simple to take apart. His steering wheel started to like get wonky and not work. Like you could control it, but it wouldn't return to center. How they did this is so simple and fixable. There's a little lever in here that's separate from the actual electronic piece that like tells the remote or the circuit board what it's doing. But there's a little piece of plastic in here that's a lever that centers it, and that just cracked in half, and I was able to glue it and put it right back together, and we're about a month in and still doing really well. And then, yeah, I just turned my little thumb thing up a little bit because my hand is so big. Lay down servos don't really bother me. They just don't work with the stock chassis, and that's what I choose to run is the stock chassis, as well as not clipping the body in, but like when you're looking through there, I like seeing the servo fill up that area. I hate when the wheels drop and there's just a huge gap, because I feel like I'll clip it in, so like that. The servo being vertical fills it up so it kind of looks a little bit more realistic. But a lay down servo I have no issue with. With my setup, I don't run it. And also, one thing I wanted to show you guys, well, before that, I'm running the Endura aluminum servo mount with a Muse servo horn with a kind of like knockoff Holmes Hobby looking servo. And the reason why I went with this servo after, you love it, Trey. The reason why I went with that servo is because, let's see, measuring from the bottom of the servo mount to the top of the servo, I didn't realize my truck is so close that when you have the body clipped on and you press down, I don't know how to show this. Like there's a gap in here that when you push my servo up, it just barely touches the bottom of the body. So unfortunately, like a millimeter makes a huge difference. So the NSD-RC servo that I was running is 20 millimeters. That distance is 20 millimeters. This one is 20 millimeters as well. The Muse, the Endura, and the Holmes Hobby are all 21 to 21 and a half, and it was just ever so slightly too big to the point that if my truck rolled over, I was nervous that it was going to damage the servo or the body by the wheels like slapping in. So that's why I'm running this on the NSD-RC RS100. I had issues with my remote in the first one that I had. I'm learning with this remote that you can adjust the different like wattage or frequency or whatever it is in the remote to go with your actual servo. So I have it set to 330, I think, right now. Or apparently they come only set at 50 or 60, which can make your servos jerky, which is something I just recently learned. So I already have this in here. I'm going to run this until it dies and then put my NSD RC servo back in and see how it does, see if it's smoother. That one I only ran on, is it 5.5 or 6 volts, and then this one I'm running on 7.4, and definitely stalls out a little bit more than I would like, but fitting wise I had to do what I had to do. So let's do shocks, and then I'll get to overdrive, underdrive, because I wanted to go sprung weight down. So I'm running Traxxas, was it GTM shocks? These are the stock ones that came on my high trail. I have the aluminum body, and then tuning from there is pretty dramatically different. So in both the front and the rear, I have taken the spacers and the O-rings out and completely retuned this. So I run only 1 drop of 10 weight fluid in my shocks, but the spacers and washers in here, if you take them apart, you'll realize that there's 2 blue rubber seals and 1 plastic spacer in between them. So currently I am running 2 plastic seals that come for the Traxxas, like get the rebuild kit so you have a spare one. And then I took the red Endura O-ring out of one of theirs and put in here, because trying to learn rubber and what it's designed for, the blue rubber seems to be for actually like sealing oil and more like industry purpose, where the red seems to be more medical wise, so it might be a little bit softer, which if you do this and you run a full thing of fluid, it's going to leak out. Like, I'm not saying that it's not going to leak, like it's definitely going to leak, but I only run 1 drop just to get everything nice and lubed and then wipe it up and just run it. So I did this on the Endura ones for a few months and loved it. It's super soft. And then on this, I have about a month on it. I put them on, I think it's about a month. I put them on just as I had them on the Land Rover as a tow rig. And then after that video, I love them so much, I did this tune in it, and I am stoked on it. Super soft, and I don't know, I love the performance. I also used the lower ball for the rod end of the Endura ones. Essentially, if you do this setup, I recommend getting a 2-pack of the 53 millimeter Endura shocks. That way you'll get everything that you need to do the setup with the Traxxas shocks. I run the the Endura stiff springs in the rear. It gives me the performance I want with how heavy my truck is. And then it's kind of hard to see. Let's see if I can get one out for you. There we go. Where'd it go? So here is my lower spring retainer. So this is a Bontrager / Trek Bikes frame brake cable stop that slides into the frame that stops the brake cable from going all the way through the frame. Essentially what I did was cut off this side, kind of looks like a top hat when you have it. I hacked it off, and it was already sliced like this, which is almost the perfect size to go around the rod for the spring. Sorry, the rod for the shock. So that's how I get less preload on my suspension. And then on the front, I don't run any shocks or cups or anything, and that actually gives it more articulation per shock. And then another thing I forgot I was going to say. I'm trying to have pictures to show you guys as well. So, where is it? Right here. So, you can see that there's this hair tie band running right there. I ran a longer screw in the back mounting my servo, and that way it holds the front wheels up. So when you get like on a vertical climb and it goes get just about vertical and it pulls the shocks in. So something that I did just so that running no springs, it didn't just flop all around and unload. It helps pull them up, kind of like a anti-spring, even though it's not. And I hope Boom Sling doesn't get me on that. So shut this and then go to my axles. So the quickest answer is yes, I run overdrive / I run underdrive. So I run the Traxxas stock internal width axles, the axle shafts, both front and back. I run the Endura aluminum housings for the stock axle width. I don't think they sell these anymore. You can get the whole thing, which comes with the +4 axles, and you could put just the housing on here. I bought a second set of these, so I have them when these wear out, if they ever do. But I run the stock gear ratio in the front and the 16% underdrive in the rear, because I was originally running the Trio overdrive 16% in the front, stock in the rear. I wanted, with going brushless, I wanted a lower gear ratio just to get a nicer slow crawl. And then when I did that, let me tilt this up a little more. So then when I did that, I left the Trio in the front and went to the Endura 16 underdrive in the back. So then I had roughly 34%, 32%, 33% because it's like 16.6. With how I crawl, like a lot of breakover V cracks. So like it would essentially, the rock would kind of arch up and over in between. And when I did that, the front was pulling so hard that it stripped the metal gears, the metal Trio gears in the front differential. And I didn't care to have that much overdrive. So I just ended up throwing the stock gear ratio in here. I ran the Traxxas steel stock gear ratio in the front for the longest time, and they would kind of wear out. I never had like metal shavings in there, but it would wear out a little bit. So now I'm running the Endura gears front and back to try to get the smoothest and quietest gear ratio or gearing. And then for steering knuckles, I'm running the Trio ones. This fall, honestly, I'm hoping to be out of Maryland. We are trying to go to the northeast, further up, try to go to Maine and Mass and Vermont and whatnot. So In August, honestly, I'm hoping to not be in Maryland. Just grew up here and I want to travel. We live in a school bus, so if I am in town, I'll try to aim and go there, but there's a high chance I'm hoping to not be here. So yeah, Trail Knuckles, and then I don't know if I want to be able to get, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I filed right here out a little bit, so then you can turn and get a longer or a more drastic steering angle before the knuckle hits the bolt for the shock. I feel like this video is super dark and I'm sorry. For the C's, I ran the brass SSD ones. I had to sand them out to fit these Trail Knuckles in here. Yeah, I have Enduro ones to replace these next, just whenever these wear out, if they do. But SSD is sweet. They didn't fit this setup properly. I'm not bummed about it though. Heck yeah, man. Thank you for coming. Hope you have a great day. And then attached to that, I decided to do another reason why I think I am able to get such good steering angle is because I'm doing 2 separate steering links with a vertical servo. So I got the Endura like 3-piece servo. I got the Endura, it's designed to be 1 piece, but it's actually 3 rod ends and 2 metal pieces, the Endura steering link, which I only run half of it. So I run one of the ends, one of the metal pieces, and then just another rod end. So it's only half of a link. And then I run a high trail, high clearance suspension link for the steering link. And I actually really dig this setup. So it's just enough to clear the diff cover, which is a Traxxas brass one in the front. And the reason why I run that is because all the other ones, like this already touches, so all the other ones just don't give me enough steering angle. And then for the back, I just run a plastic Traxxas black one. And then we will go to drive shafts. So I run the Endura C-knuckle steel drive shafts. I don't know why the front one jiggles like that. Yeah, run these. I was trying to run plastic ones with having it the weak spot on my drivetrain, and I definitely get my truck in binds, and I just kept snapping them, snapping like the inner rod, which is attached to the transmission, and that was just a pain in the butt, always trying to get to those bolts to change them. So I do this and just really try to pay attention. Like I don't just hammer it through binds. I try to go nice. I try to go as far as I'm willing to do. And then like you can see the tires wad up, and then before breaking anything, just pull my truck out or try to drive and get it unbound. But love these, haven't broken them, stripped out a screw before, and luckily was able to get it out. Then I run I think probably one of the biggest parts that Traxxas makes that people are overlooking are the suspension links. So I bought these originally and now super happy that I did because they're super loose. So when you're trying to get flex or articulation in your truck, these do not hinder it at all. The one-piece ones with the rubber seals or rubber O-rings highly limit your flex or ease. easement of articulation. These do not. Sometimes the Endura ones and potentially Muse ones and whatever other companies, when you put the balls into the end links, they're super stiff and hard to move around. Traxxas balls in end links are always super easy to move around. I even did it with, try to use the Traxxas balls with any end link of any company that I used. But these are a little bit thicker than the Endura and the Muse ones, but the rod ends are so much stronger. I think these are hollow, which I can't find any info on, but that makes the rod that goes, the threading rod part that goes into the end links even thicker. So these end links will not work with Endura or Muse suspension links. But I can firmly say that these are my favorite because on my son's truck, he has the Endura ones. And then on the tow rig, I have the Muse ones. The highest thing that I have to say about the Muse ones is they come in black, aluminum black, and they're cheap. Because I want the Traxxas aluminum ones, but I'm not spending 70 bucks, so I just did the steel ones. But you can see, got these as loose as possible. These are tight, which will hinder some of the ease of articulation with being such small trucks. Like that one's kind of stiff, but it moves stiffer. And then these are a little bit looser. But the Traxxas ones by far are just super loose. And it really helps with articulation, just as a little pro tip. Then I'm going to go, I just had this question earlier. I always run, most of the time I always run Traxxas B-lock wheels. I love these. You can run all different tires on them. So I have spare wheels and tires. So I run black Traxxas B-lock second pair with J-Concept test tires. And then I bought the brass trio wheels, and they have the Little Guy Racing Trench Kings on there. This is how the wheel comes out of the package. This has the plastic O-ring from the guy that I can never remember his name. It's his company starts with O. He does a lot of 3D printing on Etsy. Super cool dude. I've talked to him multiple times, but I'll put the link down below for these after the live is over. But that way, to get the weight reduction that I want between these wheels. And then I run DJ Crawler the silicone inserts, the 60 to 64, and then I trim the sides down so they're a little bit narrower so they don't make the tires balloon. And then these are the same setup that I have on my truck. So these have the J-Concept landmines. These have the J-Concept test tires. I'm going to go over tire preference soon. But yeah, same setup. And let me pull up the pictures. So in the front ones, because I want more weight, this is the setup that it is. It is the Traxxas brass center ring with 26 to 32 crush washers off of Amazon. They slide in there perfect. There's the DJ Crawler insert. I cut the center out of it, so the computer is showing this backwards to me. So the ring fits perfectly in here and just barely snug on it. And then if you can see in that picture, I had cut the little tabs all the way around the outside to make the insert more narrow. So it fits these tires nice. Like the rupture tires, you might be able to run them uncut, unnarrowed, but honestly, I just cut them all narrow. So my son is running the ruptures now and actually fits them pretty nice being cut down too. And let me know, do you guys think his truck's sweet with the silver wheels? I'm stoked on his truck, and I'm happy that he likes it too with them. So that is for the front. Come on. And then for the back, I'm really happy I came up with this idea because it helps get the weight reduction that I want. So this is the plastic center O-ring or center ring that comes with the Traxxas B-Lock wheels. And then I just got, I'm pretty sure it's 2mm copper rod, and I just would wrap it around the outside of this ring to get kind of a circular coilness to it, and I cut it to fit perfectly in all the little gaps around the ring. You'll know this if you have this ring, but then I did copper washers for the back instead of the aluminum ones for the front. The front ones are 1 gram per ring. These are 4 grams per ring. So this whole setup, I believe, comes out to 15 grams. And then the front brass with the aluminum ones come out to 33 grams per setup. So kind of drastic difference, but trying to get the front weight bias with running aluminum rear axle housings, I think the setup is perfect. I love it. And then the thing that someone asked this morning was essentially how to get aftermarket tires to fit these wheels. This is the setup that I do to get the J Concepts, which I consider a medium bead size. So Traxxas stock tires have a giant bead that go inside the wheel. These I would consider kind of a medium, which is why I decided to go through all this, because I had these trio wheels and could not get the J Concept tires to sit flush in there at all. So yeah, I decided to come up with this O-ring setup or this washer setup, and I'm super stoked with it. And then one thing I thought about this morning, because I bought this set of wheels to have heavier wheels, and I could do the weight balancing that I wanted to run all the small bead tires that I still have. But one thing I thought about last couple days and told someone today was to take the ring that I adapt these tires with and put electrical tape around them, and then take a X-Acto knife and cut it so it's only on the side to make the washers, instead of being 2mm, space them out a little bit to put more of a pinch on the tires. As well as one thing that I really like about these plastic Traxxas tires or Traxxas wheels is, one, how cheap they are, and two, the fact that the lip of the bead has a little bit of an overhang, kind of like a bicycle rim. So when you put the bead of the tire down, it's not just a flat interface trying to hold it, because then it can just slide right up. The Traxxas wheels have a little bit of a hook, so when the bead goes in, it, in theory, hooks really well. So, I don't know. I love this setup. And I'm so stoked on it. And there's one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, so the DJ crawler inserts are super soft. Apparently they're out of stock in this size right now, so I'd probably try the Muse ones and modify them width-wise and cut out the inside if you want to do the setup. But I've also found when you wear your tires down on the corner, they're much softer. I've had multiple people ask how I got my test tires so much softer than theirs, and it's honestly just miles on it. So, but with that being said, another thing that I did was the only J Concept tires I've ever had an issue performance-wise right out of the packaging is the Bossman tires. Can I do this? So I put the Bossmans in a glass bowl, and then I boiled or got to 160 degrees, some water, and then poured it in on them. Wrong way. So then just used a spoon to push them down. And the whole point of doing this is to, if you guys can see in this picture, there's like the rubber finishing glaze. That's how I got them off of the Bossmans. All other tires, I've just ran them out and got it off naturally. But I have a new pair of Tusks for once these are worn down and gone that I will be doing this to and seeing what the difference is. But highly recommend doing that. Don't make the water too hot because I don't want you to essentially melt the rubber. One moment, please. So another thing I forgot to say is I run the Endura 5mm hexes, the brass ones. They're not that expensive. Another thing that I did on the Land Rover is I got the Traxxas metal, the Traxxas steel hexes, and then ran the O-rings from the Traxxas shocks as spacers in between. It's a hair narrower, but it keeps the wheels nice and locked on there and tight. So two big reasons that I run stock axle width minus the 5mm hex, which gets +1 on each side, is I really want it to look as proper as possible to the body. So this is stock axle width with +1 hexes. This is stock axle width with the suspension O-rings in it and true wheels, but it should be roughly the same offset / 0 offset. And I think the tire poke is perfect for this body, so I'm stoked on it. And then when my son wanted this Cherokee body, I gave him the +4 axles off of my High Trail Chevy, and if I can figure out this, oh goodness, the camera on the computer is mirrored to me and it's making me confused. So this is +4 axles. Pretty much all aftermarket axle companies for TRX4Ms are going to +4s or +5s or even +7s. I personally hate it. I'm happy to see that Endura made this body wider to accommodate it though, so it actually looks good and in proportion with it. But with my truck being a Endura body too, it's quite narrow, I would almost be happier with this being another millimeter on each side wider. But yeah, I that's one of the biggest reasons why I run that stock axle width as well. But also with most people wanting CX, SCX 24s and like Mr. Trey 24 Yep going and driving his rocks are SCX 24 axles that are +4 width is, if I turn this like this, will this lighten the whole thing? I'd be annoyed if I just figured that out. So SCX 24 axles that are +4 are within a millimeter of the Traxxas stock axle width with the +1 hexes. So this width is going to be the same as SCX 24 +4 axles. So in theory, running lines should be as similar as possible with this as running it with the axials. And then I run a slightly shorter wheelbase than the high trail. So on the Traxxas suspension links, there's a little bit of gapping in here because these were purchased as the high trail ones. So I think the only difference is longer links on the rear and they just unthread the links on the front. But I had to thread these in just a hair to get the servo horn to miss the clip for the body. So I have 3, maybe 4 turns on the bottom ones and then 2 to 3 on the top ones, just a hair less to get the axles to rotate, or I guess rotate up so the drive shafts are not getting hit, which is another reason why I went to straight suspension links on the rear, is because the drive shafts are now protected by them, and honestly, this doesn't interfere with me driving nearly as much as I thought. So one thing that I did to get the wheelbase that I did was I took off the front lower end links and just took them on sandpaper, rubbed them down to try to get another turn. It's either a half a turn or a full turn down. When I said the front ones, I'm talking about turns as in a half a turn to the point that the end link lines up to bolt in. So sanded those down just ever so slightly to get the bottom suspension link shorter. And then on my son's truck, to get his wheelbase correct on the Endura end links, there's a little like hex piece where it looks like you can use a tool on them. I cut, I don't know if you can see, so there's the hex and then a little bit of extension of plastic. On here, I cut right to the bottom of the hex. So it shortened the lower front ones by just cutting that piece off that goes into the skid plate. On the back, I cut the front of the lowers and the upper end links. Sorry. I cut just the lower end links on the skid plate size, and then on the back I have cut both the lower and the upper suspension end links to get it shortened. So I wanted his truck to have as long of a wheelbase as I could without too much rubbing. These tires are a little bit smaller than most tires that he runs, even though they measure the same as all J-Concept tires. But I might cut the other 2 end links as his upper skid plate mount, and it will just suck the wheel just a hair further forwards. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I know that when I posted a picture of his truck on Facebook, you might even be the person that I talked to. They were saying to do high trail links in the front and Bronco links in the back, which I thought about doing, but I wanted to see what it would be if I just cut all the in links, because them overall are 7 millimeters difference, where cutting the in links might make it 3 millimeters shorter, maybe 4. But I'm not. I want our trucks to be pretty scale. I'm not worried about it being like pinpoint even. It's like I'd rather have a hair more performance than the wheels sit ideally in there. I think his front ones sit pretty good. And then this has the Muse high clearance Bronco Defender links, and it sits like perfect. I actually think the rear tires might sit a hair farther forward, so I wouldn't mind putting like a spacer in to stretch them back just a hair. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've been a high trail person, and converting our vehicles more into standard ones, or the Bronco Defender one, but shortening the wheelbase is like my last thing that I need to get over and willing to do. But thus far, I like the high trail suspension links, just barely shortening the front ones, I guess a little bit more. So shortening the front ones so the shocks are almost vertical like they would be stock, but basically just to clear the servo horn. And then the rear ones, I just do these shock mounts so the wheel can be off the back, and then like the wheels stick out further than the back of the bed. So there are definitely times that I'll just have my truck sitting like that because it flips back and just perfectly balances. But yeah, so I'm going to have to get off here soon. But I have a couple things to show you guys. Another something that I forgot to say, which I think I got this from Trey. So I took a another hair band and put it around the servo wire to hold it down, but then it was catching on my shock mount, so I actually super glued it to the side. Like I got some hobby grade glue, which is insane. But then I glue the wires for the servo to the side of the servo so it lays as flush as possible. That's also how I put the Land Rover Defender roof rack on this. Why can I not remember names? I need some lunch. How I got the Defender roof rack on this Cherokee body is I super glued it. You can kind of see a little bit of white residue, but like he's rolled this. I told him that it's going to probably break off in like a day or two, and we're going like a month strong of him just still hammering this and it's staying on there. I can't believe it. But I do have to say, if I went and I bought a stock Traxxas to start everything, I would buy the Defender, hands down. The body sits flush with the chassis rails, which is a huge thing that I like about this. Taking the roof rack and all the accessories minus the jerry cans off the back, it has lost over 30 grams for the body. So now this body, the Land Rover, weighs almost to the gram this Jeep body without the roof rack. So I thought that was pretty crazy. And if you're not talking about having a spare wheel on the back, they are the same. If you put the spare on the back, then this one will be heavier. So stoked figuring that out, and I didn't even have to break anything. Everything's bolted on or just like glued in. Yes, I 100% agree. That's another thing that I really liked about this body, is just having something that like bolted on, didn't have to cut. This sits just barely taller than the rail. But like the Chevy body, I'm pretty sure the Ford body, I don't remember about the Bronco body, but they all sit like above the rail, so you can see all the bolts. And I wasn't a fan of this. This sits just above the bottom of the rails, but for the most part, it's pretty much flat with the rails. But the Defender 100% covers the rails perfectly, and I just put some skid plates on there, or rock sliders on there, and it sits like perfectly flush. And then what I wanted to show you, which I had to absolutely beg my son to let me bring his remote. So, power on the remote. So, power on his truck. How am I going to get this? Wheel stacks. Let's see. So, I have a winch, recovery winch on the back. So I think it's stoked, or I'm stoked, because for this SWB switch, which is a 3-position, I'll let the winch out. He has had it out too far at one point, so I'll fix it for him. But I'm so stoked on this because he really wanted this. It's actually super long. And there we go. Now it's coming back in. But essentially, I have it so if you move it away from the steering wheel, you know it's going away from the vehicle. And then if you have it okay, so middle, if you push it away from the steering wheel, it goes out. You stop it, you push it towards the steering wheel, and it goes in. So I thought that was sweet. I'm so stoked I figured out this setup for him. Also, to get this to not up to me again. So setting the end links will adjust the speed of this. So if you have it just set to 100, it like flies out and flies back in. So you have to set it down. Let's see. So I have it set to 60 going out and 40 going back in. So that's the speed that I wanted it set up on his truck. And then show you really quick. So how I got that to work is we have the same Endura rear shock mounts. I used a lay down servo mount believe this is a Muse one, maybe. Um, the lay down servo mount mounted it with where the stock ECM would go. And then I took a high trail tow hitch and cut it off right at the nub. So I was able to drill a hole and put the wire through. And then I took the rest of the high trail tow hitch and I drilled a hole through the side of it and mounted it right in there. I have some pictures in the community tab of my channel to show you some better pictures of that, but I was stoked on this and he is stoked, and now he wants me to put it on the front of his truck, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that with weight proportions and everything. But minus that weight being terrible, higher upper weight on the back, I think his setup is super slick. Like the motor and trans are the highest part of it. And then I always tell my wife that I feel like I try to tune my truck in so like pinpoint specific, and I just throw like spare parts and whatnot on my son's truck, and I feel like his truck always comes out better than mine. But I am happy to say that now putting the heat shrink on my ESC or on my receiver has gotten mine the same. So the motor and trans sit just higher than the receiver. Oh, and I don't know if I'm correct, but I'm going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. I am trying to understand LCG chassis, but what makes sense in my head is this setup is more LCG than most LCG chassis because of where you're mounting the shocks. If you mount the shocks angled and they're down lower, almost the same height as your battery, ESC, motor, trans, that means the mounting spot where the weight, the sprung weight, the unsprung weight is interfacing with your chassis is, if you have the one where your shocks are laid down, that means your motor weight and ESC is higher compared to that mounting point than where it is having your shocks mounted higher. So I want to say that this chassis with higher shock mounts is truly more of an LCG chassis than most LCG chassis. You can angle the skid and get the motor weight down. Yes, I understand that is something that you could do. But depending on where you mount stuff with that receiver, your ESC and everything, I got my ESC, I filed these down even more the other day to get the ESC and the receiver to sit in, but they literally sit on top of the chassis rails. And then this is just extension out to mount it more securely. So I could be wrong, but until it is more proven to me in an actual like scientific way, I think that this with higher shock mounts is more LCG than most other ones that have angled shocks. I understand that you're trying to get all the weight possible down low, but these shocks weigh 4 grams. Like, that's a lot when you're adding all of them up, but like you're also mounting them to the axle, the rods the in links and everything down below is probably half the weight of the upper body. So the rods are steel, the body shafts are aluminum or plastic, depending on which ones you get. So that's my 2 cents. I won't fight you on it, but I won't believe you that what people claim to be LCG chassis are actually LCG, more lower center of gravity than how I have mine set at the pivot point. And that made me already forget the last thing I wanted to say, but yeah. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys like my setup, if you don't like my setup, especially let me know if you guys want to talk about LCG, because I would be interested in that. And then also another bonus of having vertical shocks is I can turn and have multiple millimeters of room between my shocks, articulating and everything. They don't hit. Also, to be fair, I don't run springs on the front, but my shocks are never an issue with a good turning angle. So, yeah. I think that might be it for this video. Other than my sweet mod of putting the thumb piece up, I can actually show you this. I have so much room right here that I feel like I can't control the throttle well. But if I have this like this, I can't get my finger in there, but I can turn all the way, which is why I do that. Tab to hook it onto my lanyard and have quick release. Sticker bomb so my son and I can tell our remotes apart. And the batteries in this thing, when you actually get a good battery charger, which I highly recommend if you have, my son's battery comes out easier than mine. If you have these 18650s, so like his just falls out. But highly recommend getting a separate battery charger, theoretically a smart one. I got it and it charges it so much. I don't know why my remote or my battery doesn't want to come out my remote, so it always takes me a little bit. But the nice thing is the batteries in these remotes last so much longer than my GT5 or my Dumbo. The only comparison is maybe LiPo. I still think this actually lasts longer than having a LiPo in either of those. And it's super light, and I love it. But quick thing I was going to say about tires is basically I have 2 sets of black ones, and I have this set of gold Trio wheels right now. I'm starting to like Little Guy Racing tires with having the DJ Crawler inserts. They actually grip and work. And if you guys have watched my most recent video at Trey's Rocks, I was able to get up the Drunken Frog with this setup. It was not as easy as the Tusks though. But my tire recommendation, if I had to pick 2 tires plus a bonus, Tusks #1 will get you everything that you want. The landmine tires have way more forwards bite than lateral bite, and that allows me to like kind of shimmy around, but also they will all or nothing grip sometimes on you. Tusks are just hands down my favorite, which is why I have another spare set. And then one tires I haven't tried that I am going to purchase next are the holds from J Concepts. They seem to be basically the same thing as these Little Guy Racing tires. I really like this tread, and I really like the J Concept green compound, which is why I'm going to try those next. So I think that will probably be running one set with tusks and one set with holds, the holds, whatever they are. I like the Boss Mans. They are not a perfect all-around tread. I really want them to be, but like when you just run your fingers on them, tusks and landmines have a lot more like little traction tread, where the Boss Man's is a little bit thicker, and I feel like it really benefits more on a grippier surface, where the landmines and the tusks are a pretty dang good all-around tire. I think tusks are probably my favorite all-around tire with handling and everything. Rock bumps is what my son typically has on his truck, but I don't know, I feel like those are kind of a cheating tire, which I mean, like, if you want a cheater rig or just want, like, the best, theoretically the best tire, or best grip per se, those I feel like just make a stock truck like a cheater rig. But I still think tusks are better by like ever so slightly. Have the ruptures on the silver wheels on my son's truck now. I personally don't like the knobby tread on the side, which is why I don't run these. And then just whatever on this truck. I have the Mavericks. More I run Enduro tires, more they seem to not work for me. So they're just on the tow rig. Little Guy Racing, once I got the inserts right, these tires are pretty dang sweet now. And this tread really makes me want to get the holds. And yeah, I don't know. Boss Man tires, I love how they look, but the performance just isn't there on my rocks for me. So I will have them in the warmer weather. I think also, I mean, obviously temperature made this table really dirty. Also, temperature makes a huge difference with the friction and grip between your tires and the rocks. So, landmines and tusks are my all year round, do everything workhorse tires. Landmines do work better on wet rocks. I do have to say that. And then Boss Mans, I absolutely love how they look, but they seem to be very much a more grippy surface / hotter weather tire. I don't know. Little Guy Racing tires, though, are really impressing me, and you will see these on my truck throughout videos too. So I typically have all three of these wheel setups with me, so that way I can be fancy and have exactly what I need when I need it, where I need it. But yeah, I don't know. I have to go because my wife has work soon, so I have to get back to give her the van. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Write them down. I also made a Facebook group, Topper RC. Should be able to find it. I have links in bottom of my videos. Some of them, I need to put them in all of them, but that way it can kind of be, I'll definitely see when you guys post and ask questions. It will just, I don't know, I feel like help build the community too. And then trying to do group meetup crawls at least once a season, potentially more. But want to get one done soon for spring. So might do it next weekend. But I don't know. I'll post in the community tabs when and where I plan on doing meetup crawls. I just want to have fun, get people out, and if you care to see stuff that you see on the internet in person. So basically, I can't think of anything I'm going to change on this truck other than just wheels, or depending on what, I mean tires, depending on what surface I need, but same wheels, same inserts, same everything. So yeah, I want this truck to be seen on rocks everywhere, as well as hopefully help you guys find new rocks in local areas or places that you guys happen to travel to. I feel like that's going to be a huge thing for my channel with living in the school bus. But Northeast is our goal for this year. Making it to Maine, making it to Mass, making it to Vermont, Connecticut, trying to meet up with people, trying to meet up with Cape crawlers. His son is just a little bit older than mine, but like get out and crawl. So I think it'll be sweet. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Comment, leave any questions that you guys have. Check out the YouTube group, the Facebook group. And then, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video and the next live.